I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV Velocities in Music. Today, a 2010 compilation that's getting a ton of buzz. Black Tambourine, also a famous song by the artist Beck. It's like one of my favorite Beck songs. Anyways, Black Tambourine. How would you describe this, Tom?
I would definitely describe it as post-punk.
Post-punk?
Kind of that noisy post-punk. Jesus and Mary Chain. A little bit of Joy Division.
Phil Spector. You know, drawing influence, but these guys came a little later. You know, and what they put out, I mean, they really never put out a full-length album. Just did some recording sessions, got pretty famous in an underground scene, and you know, it influenced a ton of bands. It's still influencing music today, and you know, really being the second full compilation of their you know, discography. You know, I feel like this is a good offering of what and who Black Tambourine was, and it's a tribute to what they've done to music today. And to describe, I mean, what my favorite parts about what this sound is it's mood and atmosphere based, but it's created by fast-moving bass parts with these distorted, loud, clangy, chord-driven guitar lines that where it's just and it's just cascading all around you. And it's the bass parts that really hold it together.
Yes.
Bands like
Totally
Aerial,
agree.
Pink's Haunted Graffiti, even early
Japan
Flaming
Droids.
Lips, Japan Droids, they all draw influence.
You know what
from
I
this.
got a lot out of this? Cranberries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a less radio-friendly Cranberries.
And this was recorded, you know, on you know, 4-track at best. You know, so the production is just shit. It's just terrible. But it's kind of endearing how crappy the production is.
And that's what a lot of people like about this genre.
Right.
And that's one thing that I don't really get into. I'm a guy who kind of likes things to be a little more clean cut. And, you know, if you don't agree with that, that's fine. I won't argue with you because that's purely taste.
It is. It's an opinion.
And for me, I don't feel like there's a lot of merit in it, but a lot of other people do. You know, bands like Husker Du also kind of follow that trend. Jesus and Mary Chain, those bands we were mentioning, and a lot of people really see that as very influential music, and this is right along with that. But to tell you the truth, I think that the production, while people really feel that and they really get into that, I don't understand how you could really say too many just glowing things about the songwriting. I think it's all right. I think there's definitely some cool bass lines and some interesting drumming. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It kind of reminds me of what I said about Japan Droids, like, when is it okay for drums to just be kind of sloppy and off? And sometimes they are here, but sometimes they're very nice and on, and you got some tom work and stuff that moves the song very nicely. And then sometimes it's kind of staggered and it'll kind of grate against the other instruments. So, you know, it's just whether you can get into that or not, whether you think that there is merit in that, or whether you just think it's obnoxious. For me, I'm actually kind of on the fence. I think sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but maybe it just depends on the fact that sometimes they're doing it here and sometimes they're not.
And one thing that I think is quite catchy about some of these songs in comparison to some of the other, you know, influences you named is the female vocals. I mean, I feel like, you know, and while it's not the most mature voice, you know, I know we were talking about that, Tom, or even mature lyrics, but some of these lyrics are good, but they're more hit or miss. To me, though, like, it's just nostalgic. It's just, there's something about those vocals that just, it's catchy. And there's some X factor there that I want to at least note. But, you know, to note, you know, this is a lot of reissues, some reworkings, or you know, expanded production on a lot of these songs, but then it gets into some reissues, you know, first demos of classic Black Tambourine tracks like For Ex-Lovers Only and Throw Aggie Off a Bridge. Also 2 of my track picks, and then they actually have some new, previously unreleased tracks on this compilation, which I think is kind of a nice offering to fans who maybe, you know, people are dying for this stuff. They love this. This is huge in 2010, and it's 2010.
And that really is a testament to how this stands the test of time. It really is able to do that and still influence bands, as you were saying. But that's also when context becomes an issue, because none of these songs were really made very recently, yet they're being released now in a format where they're not specifically meant to work together because maybe they were never intended to be all together on an album. And that makes this very difficult to grade, because we grade albums, and this isn't quite an album as as we typically approach them.
It's a compilation of old school stuff.
Yes.
And it is difficult. And, and I picked 4 tracks because, well, there's 16 on here. But, it's just that. It's just a collection of songs. So I'm taking this less seriously, I guess, than I would a normal album review. I don't know about you. Track 1, 4X Lovers Only. Track 5, I Was Wrong. Track 6, Throw Aggie Off a Bridge. My grandma's name is Aggie, so the image I get in my head is kind of funny. And track 9, By Tomorrow. Those 4 tracks, I think, were my favorites, and there were some that I didn't like in there, but really it was never this overwhelming sense of hate towards any songs that I might have not favored, but those 4 were just clear favorites of mine.
And this, I'm going to go ahead and say, well, I'll pick tracks first. I also really liked Throw Aggie Off the Bridge and By Tomorrow. By Tomorrow had great bass playing.
Yeah.
And, I think I'll actually just leave it at those 2 tracks, because the other ones, while I thought, they're okay, all of them just kind of washed together in the listen for me. And yeah,
they're not too distinct.
No, they're not. And the production plays a big part in that, because they're all just kind of produced very similarly. But I would say that the songs are just written kind of similarly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not bad. I also think that stuff like this is just a little overhyped, especially when I think a lot of the stuff back in the day that was getting, or that even now gets a lot of praise, was getting praise because it was so instrumental in influencing, other great bands. I mean, Joy Division was the late 70s, early 80s. And they really only came out with 2 albums, actually, by, 1980. But that was 1980. I mean, this was much later than that. And I'm not talking about 2010. I'm talking about even the original releases of these songs. So it's kind of like, well, at that point, it's still just kind of rehashed. And it's like, it was a necessary step in the evolution of music, but is it really worth just revisiting all the time? I don't think so. Maybe you disagree.
This is a nice tribute to him. I'd say they're kind of beating a dead horse if we hear more from Black Tambourine without, a recreation.
Yeah.
Hard to grade. I'm going to go 68.
I'm also going to go 68.
I feel like that's fair.
Yeah.
And something that you guys, if you haven't heard of Black Tambourine, or if you like any of the bands that we've mentioned that this kind of sounds like, or is influenced by, or draws influence from, you might want to check this out. I'd say everyone. I would say everyone should, take a listen. It might not be something that catches you, but if you like a lot of noisy guitar and shitty production, then this is your type of thing. Not that shitty production is bad, but Tom says it's a taste thing. But tell us what you think. www.velocitiesandmusic.com and at our YouTube channel. I think that wraps it up, Tom.
Yeah.
I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.